be there or be square. I'm just gonna have a bit of dead air for a second. Just make sure settings have changed and everything. I don't know whether Alan, you're still there because you're loyal. You see. uh, I just can't work out generally why it was so bad. It's been like it for about a week now. I think it should be better now, but fingers crossed. It's staying in the green now, with only 2.5% drop frames as opposed to about 58% drop frames. So we seem to have a low drop frame percentage, which is always a good sign. And you lucky people, you'll get to see the intro again. And hear the jangling of Coke and ice. No, you won't see me just yet. Before I stick this camera on, I want to make sure that the frame rate's okay. I'm just doing a little test. I will be starting again in about 5-10 minutes. So you won't see anything. Well, actually, you could probably. I'm just gonna switch this on now. So because everyone loves the test card. She's still alive. I think she died, didn't she? The girl in the test card. I think she passed away. I know the doll's still alive. So that's good. Let's go to that. I don't want that chat up anymore because that's an old one. Don't want to get everyone all excited, you see, and it all goes tits up again. Make sure it's live. There we go. Sally James boobs. Who doesn't like those? Right. How's the test card? Hey, pop out the chat. Hey, pop it out the chat. I mean, there we go. Well, I think we may have it sorted, everyone. Drop frames was at 0.7%. Can everybody hear me okay? I literally was in that stream for about 5 or 6 minutes just waffling on and trying to get people to answer, but nobody was able to hear me or see me, so yeah, it's a bit pointless really, wasn't it? Yes. Right. Sorry to bore you all again. I'll only play this now. I'll only play this one more time. So I'll put the camera on just briefly. Just briefly. We won't go into the clock. We'll just go straight to the camera. Straight to the camera. Okay, so officially I am, I think, I'm actually early. I'm actually 9 minutes early. Give this a test. Let me know how everyone is seeing it now. I need to know everything's fine. So if it looks fine and things are playing ball, then we'll carry on. Stresses and strains of live streaming bollocks. Sometimes it really gets to me. "60 frames per second. Trying that, even though I did say I'd put it down to 30. Can everybody hear me okay? Just if you're out there, just give me a little yes, everything's fine. I.e. the stream isn't breaking up or something. According to my end, the stream is behaving wonderfully. So I don't know. I need your input. Looks fine here, says Mark Andresen. Mark Andresen. That sounds. It's like it's Norwegian. I just usually from Sweden, and I just really shit on you, haven't I? Anderson sounds all Norwegian. Good. I'm glad it does, Mark. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. So Norway. I bloody love Norway. I bloody love that part of the world. I used to work on the cruise ships. There's the air up in Norway. Oh my God, it's so fresh and so clean. What's going on with the Scandinavians? They get it all right all the time. Scandinavia, that's where it's at. That's where it's bloody at. I tell you, I want to do a road trip up there. I want to do a road trip, but I'm scared of the fuel costs and the fact that I've got a Peugeot 205 that's 33 years old. It's not probably going to get me very far, is it? I'm lucky to get to Dover. I'm a Brit, but have Norwegian ancestry. Oh, nice to join. Nice, mate. Nice. Thanks for joining us. Yes, I do love Norway, and I can see why you moved there, mate. I can see why you moved there. I'm not sure what it's like politically now. I know Sweden's kicking itself in the arse for doing a few things wrong over the last like 10-15 years, but I'm assuming Norway's fairly unscathed from, shall we say, some of the problems that are plaguing Sweden. I don't know. I don't want to get too political, do I? It went red. But I think we're okay. And we're back. Old school fool. Yes, we're back. Right, now, if it looks like if it's playing ball now, it's because I've changed how the processor processes the video. It's using my graphics card as opposed to my connection. I don't even understand it properly. I'm not even going to pretend. I'm not even going to pretend to understand it. But I am fairly new to streaming. This is only I think I've been doing it now, 2 months? So, and then having an issue with the PC. So yeah, Denmark, home of, you know what? I know what you're going to say, Alan, but I don't know whether Mark does, but I know what you're going to say. Who's up for seeing the little intro? I won't be playing it again, so if it's thanks, Libratad. Thanks. Better now. Good. Thank you, Robert Graves. Appreciate your input and in letting me know. Bacon. Old school fool in there. Oh yes, that's exactly what Alan was going to talk about. He was going to talk about Danish bacon. Yes, weren't you, Alan? You like Danish bacon. You like it hot and smoky, yeah? So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to put it on, and because I did say it was going to be a 9 o'clock stream starting at 9, so we've got like 4 minutes. But I'm going to put this on. Saturday is Tiswas Day. Saturday is Tiswas. Every day to miss, 'cause Saturday is Tiswas Day. A Tiswas Day. Why Sully James never gets a custard pie.
I do.
Well, I think we can clear that up. But why doesn't Sully James get enough custard pie? Fairly strict. Thrown out from close range. Well, I think we can manage that without any
Street today. A suicidal Japanese fighter pilot crashed his plane. Pardon?
A doctor has tied a rope around his ankles and says he's certain that the man will pull through.
He likes them.
Hello. Hello. Good morning to you. 9:30 on a Saturday morning.
And that's the news at midday. Now back to Mark.
From an observer's point of view, an amazing year last year, but you were dubbed by lots of journalists as the voice of 78, the singer of 78. Is that a problem? Do you think that you made such an impact? Do you feel that could become a little bit of a burden?
I've no idea. I think possibly I could get a problem with the fact that most people associate me with just one song.
Hello, Simon. You're through to Matt Bianco.
Hello, Matt Bianco. You're a bunch of wankers.
Push him away.
Saturday morning, get down to the superstore. We're gonna check out the score down at the store.
You're looking more like Mickey Mouse every day.
You shut your face.
Philip Schofield will be here as well with TV Talkback, and we might even let you in.
Oh,
That'd be great, eh?
Okay, Elliot, what's your question?
I'd like to ask Five Star where they're so fucking crap. They're fucking
Thanks very much, Elliot. Nice to hear from you. I'm sure Tammy would have made a lot more sense. Let's move on to line 3. Have you got a sensible question?
Right, our two finalists. Who have we got? Okay, here's the first word. Australia.
Me.
Yes.
Live.
Live.
Die.
Die.
Old.
Old.
You.
What?
On a good ship, lollipopping, sweet trip to a candy shop where bonbons play on a sunny beach in Peppermint Bay.
Oh no!
I'm very pleased to say Martika is in the studio this morning. How are you? I'm fine.
Hiya, good morning. Welcome to Motormouth.
Well, this is certainly one way to get very friendly to somebody you only met yesterday. It's also another way to change colour on a T-shirt.
I do a lot of student gigs these days. I find that all the wide awakers have grown up now and they're all at university, and what they want is Whackaday exactly the same as it was when they were children.
And there we go. Some of the comments there. Yes, Michaela. Yeah, Michaela Strachan. Yes, I know what you're going to say there. Well, you've already said it. As I said in the last stream, but I'll say it now. Apologies for no 1960s stuff in there. As I was saying, I don't really know that many shows, and I think that kind of format for Saturday morning, that particular format, sort of started with Swap Shop and Tiswas. I wish I had hair like Terry Nutkin, Robert Graves. Yes, I mean, I've got a dome. I mean, if I could grow like Bill Bailey's hairstyle, it does grow. It's stupid. It doesn't grow here, but it does grow really bad at the back and long. I could look like Bill Bailey. What do you reckon? I'll have a vote. Hit number 1 if you want me to look like Bill Bailey. It would take me about a year and a half. Personally, I don't really care about being bold. I've got an array of hats. I have over 30 hats, you see. And depending on what mood I'm in, that's my fashion thing. I alternate my hats. I've got flat caps. I've got peak hats. I've even got a bowler hat. I've got a beret. I've got 25 baseball caps. Nutkin's finger missing. Right, said Fred. Yep, exactly. I'm too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. I like being bold. I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed the hat, the accessorizing, and things like that. It's a bastard in the summer where I get sunstroke really easily because I was blonde, blue-eyed before that. I used to have long curtain hair as well. I used to dye it, which was stupid. I've digressed again somewhat. So yeah, I chose to pick that particular. Well, I picked 70s, 80s, and 90s because that was the sort of decade that that I grew up with. Because even in the late 80s, I was still watching children's TV at like 13 and 14 and stuff. So I generally kind of late 70s to early 80s. It's about 83 that I vividly remember watching things like Saturday Superstore. That phone in was brilliant. I mean, the Going Live one is but Matt Bianco. If anyone remembers Matt Bianco, I love the reaction of the one of the singers' face. It's so funny. But yes, those phone ins were fantastic. The most famous one is the 5-star one, which I'm sure everyone has seen so many times. But that has become like who was it who said it? Old School Fool. He is legendary. Elliot Fletcher. Yes, but he was right because 5-star were a bag of pants. We all know that. So basically, yeah, I wanted to cover sort of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Right. So where can I will go back to the essay just briefly. Okay, I will just go back to the essay and as though we didn't really start the stream for 20 minutes. The British children's Saturday morning television of yesteryear, often described as the golden era, holds a special place in the hearts of many who grew up during that time. Shows like Tiswas, Multicoloured Swap Shop, Saturday Superstore and Wide Awake provide a unique blend of entertainment, creativity and community that made those Saturday mornings unforgettable. I remember like how I wouldn't do anything until about 11:35. I think that was when it sort of ended. And I would jump on my BMX then and scoot off around Dartmouth and get up to all sorts of mischief. But I think correct me if I'm wrong now. This was either Saturday or Sunday. But do you remember The Invaders? That 60s science fiction series, The Invaders. I'm pretty sure that after one of them, like Saturday Superstore, I'd switch to BBC Two and I'd watch The Invaders, and I can't remember whether that was Saturday or Sunday, but they used to rerun The Invaders. If that was on, I would go out after that. So where were we? Yeah, so basically the nostalgia factor. That's what I wanted to talk about. To understand the enduring appeal of British children's Saturday morning television, we must first acknowledge the power of nostalgia. And that's what we all know here, don't we, on this channel. The power of nostalgia is potent, as I've quoted Don Draper many a times. If anyone wants to get into Mad Men, I could do a Mad Men stream, but it's not keeping in with British things. Although it does have a fantastic Jared Harris in it, Richard Harris's son. Maggie Thatcher, Shattered Dreams. It's Scattered Dreams, actually. Invaders was Sunday. Yes. Oh, thanks, Alan. It was Sunday. So maybe Sunday. I know Bonanza used to be on because my granddad used to watch Bonanza. I remember The Invaders. They put them up in hotels now. Sorry if that went through your eardrums, but that would deserve the clap. What have we got? Where am I? So yeah, so I'm acknowledging the power of nostalgia, and we all know what nostalgia is here, don't we? For many adults who were children during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, these shows represent an irreplaceable part of their youth. The theme tunes, the quirky set designs, and beloved hosts instantly transport them back to a time when the world was simpler, and Saturday mornings were filled with excitement and anticipation. I was saying briefly, I'll touch on it again, that Tiswas, we'll just go through some of those shows. Tiswas was the anarchic one. And I'll probably intercut this with the old video anyway, but I like it my streams to stay on the live part. When I re-edit a stream, I have to upload it as a video to my channel, which is slightly annoying because I'd like to keep those separate, really. So if I am repeating myself, it's because I don't really want to go back and re-edit this. But I will say that the Tiswas was the first of the anarchic Saturday morning shows, first of the anarchic television shows, arguably. And then, you know, you go on to things like TFI Fridays, The Word, The Big Breakfast, all of those sort of shows that came after Tiswas, these anarchic kind of seemingly like anything goes at a weird time. Obviously, Big Breakfast very early in the morning. And then you've got Tiswas very early on a Saturday morning. So, you know, either way, I think these kind of shows made executives sweat a wee bit because you never quite knew what you were going to get. And that was what the style of Tiswas was and why it was so popular, combining slapstick comedy pranks and live music performances. Whereas, on the other hand, a few years later, the multicoloured Swap Shop, presented by Noel Edmonds and crew, was a pioneer. When I say crew, Maggie Philbin, Keith Chegwin, John Craven. Presented by Noel Edmonds, was a pioneering magazine-style show that involved celebrity interviews, live phone-ins, which we all love, those live phone-ins, especially when they go wrong, and swapping items with viewers, which some people forget that it was about that. And I find that I'd forgotten that, like, because it was a little bit before my time, Swap Shop. But when I was watching a little bit of a documentary on it, I was like, oh my God, you used to like literally like swap an Action Man figure for a Cabbage Patch Kid. You could like write in, or you could kind of mail in what you're selling, what you want to swap, I should say. Which was kind of a novel way of doing it, long before the internet. You certainly reached a bigger audience. I remember seeing both Matt Bianco and Five Star live, and when Dickie Davis said instead of cup soccer. I think I might remember that from one of those old It'll Be Alright on the Night. I think, yeah, I can. Oh, what a mistake! Was that a faux pas? Would you say that'd be a faux pas? That's not a faux pas. That's just a. So yes. Where are we? Multicolour Swap Shop. Saturday Superstore featuring Mike Reed, and I will do it again because I just love doing an impression of "All right, Pat." Not that Mike Reed. Not that legendary Mike Reed. Not spelled R-E-I-D. But spelled R-E-A-D, and hello, I am a Radio 1 DJ. That Mike Reed. So Saturday Superstore had that Mike Reed, and not hello, Pat. Keith Chegwin offered a lively mix of games, celebrity guests, and music acts. Again, following the format very closely of Swap Shop. I think they ditched the I want to swap my 1983 first generation Transformer with a Cabbage Patch doll. So they dropped that, but they kept the format of Swap Shop. And I think Mike Reed, I think he was good. I think he was a good replacement. I think Edmonds had become much more of a family TV host by that time. Pop botherer. Yes, he used to do the quiz, didn't he? Pop quiz. I think after he did Saturday Superstore, he had a little bit of a popular thing in with families and stuff, and he used to do the pop quiz, didn't he? And that was like primetime BBC, like 7:30 or something. I remember having a Mike Reed board game, and the questions were really tough. So then we're moving on to things like Wide Awake was a programming block that featured a variety of shows, which is where correct me if I'm wrong, Gordon the Gopher started, and Motormouth, which was also the career launcher of Gabby Roslin. If anyone remembers Gabby Roslin, who went on to host with Chris Evans the Big Breakfast. She was lovely. She still is. She's not dead or anything. Gabby Roslin isn't dead, is she? No, I don't think she is. Motormouth was one of the last ones I remember watching, which was 1993. And that was very much the same sort of format as Wide Awake. Very much the same sort of format as Wide Awake. But Wide Awake was the one that launched the career of people like Michaela Strachan, who are not unfamiliar to children of my age at that time. The Really Wild Show. And obviously later on in the 80s, The Hitman and Her. Thank you, Alan. Yes, and Michaela Strachan. I mean, yes, I had a thing for Michaela Strachan, and that's probably why I was still watching children's TV at like 15, 16 years old, because it was Michaela Strachan that was keeping me there. That little clip I showed of her doing the Shirley Temple thing. The Shirley Temple thing. Like, where she was playing an American First Lady. It's really good performances, actually. It's on YouTube. Check that out. It's like a little sketch that they do in that show, and she gets to play these. She gets to act, basically. I was quite impressed, especially with the Shirley Temple thing, which is slightly cringy now, but not too bad. So these shows that we were talking about, they're obviously one of them. Obviously, the Wide Awake had Timmy Mallet, and you either loved him or you hated Timmy Mallet. I didn't love him. I hated him. But he was good at what he did. Number 73 with the dreadful Sandy Toksvig. Do you know what, old school? I was going to download a clip, but because that woman's in it, I can't stand that woman. Even for just a trip, even just to mention that woman I don't like her. Oh, remember when she took over from Stephen Fry when I used to really love QI? She'd hosted QI for about a whole series. Just awful. I don't watch any of that anymore anyway. There was also a thing, number 73, it was also, didn't Maureen Lipman host something around that time, or was that something different? I was trying to remember. I'm sure Maureen Lipman hosted like a Saturday morning show. I'm sure it was number 73 as well, but I didn't want to go too far into number 73 because it meant unearthing Sandy Toksvig, and that's just, nobody wants to do that. She should just stay buried. More like a bloke. I don't know, Robert. I don't know. Is she? I don't know. No. Oh, well, did we lose? I hope we haven't lost. Oh, I think we may have lost him back in the old stream. The guy that was from Norway. Is she Norwegian? Toksvig. No. Could have asked that the chap that was in here before. Oh, that's bollocks. Missed that. I would have loved to have chatted to him a bit more. She sure ain't one of the. She certainly isn't, Alan. And what a horrible thought. I'm going to have to go and shower after this stream. Stephen Fry, French saunas. God, stop mentioning her name, Libertad. Toksvig, yeah, what is going on with that? Why would whose idea was it to have her host that? I find Stephen Fry dreadful now, but now too. But anyway, can't say I follow Stephen Fry. When the whole Twitter thing came out, and everyone jumped onto the the Twitter when it first started. It was so cool that you could tweet, and obviously Stephen Fry was huge on Twitter when in its day, and that's when I used to enjoy Twitter. This is going back, how long's Twitter been around? 15 years. But I must admit, I don't. There's still merit to some of the things he says. Like, he will stand up against some of this crazy shit that's today. But he's pretty much taken a back seat now, and I think he keeps out of controversy. But there was a time when you could rely on him to sort of, you know, just kind of, I would say according to some of the left, say the wrong thing, but for me, some of the times the right thing to engage in conversation. He used to be good at that, I think. Ah, there's Mark. Hello, Mark. Still here, mate. Toxic is Danish. Thank you. Why didn't she stay in Denmark? Why couldn't she just stay there? Anyway, I don't want this to be a bashing, a Toxic bashing stream. I mean, I've got nothing against her. I just don't like her. I just don't want to see her. There's another one, that Miriam Margolis. Miriam Margolis? Oh, God, when she's... Oh, no. Oh, you could put those two in the same room and throw away the key. Well, I've digressed. These shows shared a characteristic that has been challenging for modern children's television to replicate. They created a strong emotional connection with the viewers. The hosts were like extended family members. We've talked about this before, and I didn't want it to sound a bit like the last one that I put together, where there's a sense of community. But there was a sense of community, I think. And there was a sense of like bringing kids together, as opposed to like, you know, you can all be individual. If you want to identify as a tree, you can identify as a tree. If you want to identify as a leaf, you can identify as a leaf. It's just literally what brought people in as one audience has now regurgitated it. And it's like, it used to just be one tree. Now it's every single branch and every single leaf. And let's cater for everyone. Somewhere it gets lost along the way. And I don't think you get kind of shows like this anymore. The hosts were extended family members. The shows were a weekly ritual that viewers eagerly anticipated. This sense of nostalgia and belonging is often missing from today's fragmented and on-demand media landscape. And we do have to say about streaming and that you know, back in the day when we just had BBC One, BBC Two, RTV, Channel 4. Some people might not even... I remember when Channel 4 was launched. I was so excited. Now, obviously, you know, I don't need to say what we got now. So that everything is vying for your attention, and it's lost that engagement, that personal engagement or family engagement. A hallmark of British children's Saturday morning television was the sense of community it fostered. I know I've just said all that, but I'll read it again. Unlike today's isolated streaming services, these shows were broadcast live, and viewers felt part of a nationwide club. Who didn't want to be in that club? I always wanted to be in the Beano Club. I think I joined, and I'm pretty sure I got a Nasher badge, and it was like a furry black thing. Nasher, if you remember Nasher. Was it a dog or a cat? I assume it's a dog. I used to have that, but I was in it. But I was in the Beano Club. Live phone-ins allowed children to connect with the presenters and share their thoughts, questions, and even dedications. This level of engagement created a unique bond between the show and its audience. And that's something that you don't get now, even though we live in an age where we can interact on the internet, we can talk to people far and wide, we can send tweets, we can do all of that, but there's something about hearing your name read out on television. Now, this is not so, well, it did go out on Saturday mornings, but it went out every day. A regional ITV program that we had in the Southwest is a slightly bizarre... I'm just noticing my nose. That lighting is doing my nose no justice. Let me put that there. It's got a shiny nose. What have I got a shiny nose for? Bollocks! That's Garfield's fault, not mine. Garfield fell on the keyboard. Bad Garfield. What's that? Fell on the bloody keyboard. I'm trying to clear up my shiny nose. Oh, that's a bit better, I suppose. Now I've completely lost where my train of thought. Oh, the BBC. Television Southwest, TSW, also known as Westwood TV, before 1983, when the regionalisation of ITV. We used to have a thing, Tuffy Club. I remember the Tufty Club. Robinson's Jam Gollies. Yes, my mum used to collect them. I know, Libertad, and they fetch a fair price now over on eBay if you have them. We used to have this thing on TSW called Gus Honeybun, and it was a regional thing. It was basically where you could send in, where your parents would send in a birthday card to get read out on television, and there'd be a little rabbit, Gus Honeybun, and he'd do bunny hops, and he'd do a magic button, and he'd do bunny hops, magic button, winks. He'd wink as well. So however old you were, you say you were 3 years old, a big shout out and happy birthday to Chris, who's 4 years old today. Love from Mummy, Daddy, Granny, Grampy, and he'd like 4 bunny hops, please. And then the thing would go 1, 2, 3, 4, the bunny, Gus Honeybun. Or he'd wink 4 times. Or if you can have it once, a magic button, and which is basically just a very cheapskate sort of television studio effect that he would either bang his nose into this button, and the colours, it would go all weird, like ultraviolet and stuff in the studio. But what the point being is to hear your name being read out on television, just like to phone in to your favourite Saturday morning show and ask 5-star a question. That was huge. That was I was on telly, or my name was read out on telly. That kind of person, that kind of, just offering, what's the word I'm looking for? A personal approach, isn't it? It's a very personal approach, and to a child to have their name read out. And I think a lot of those shows, and a chance to be on the television, drove those kids to be there in the studio, or to birthday greetings. Do you remember Gus Honeybun, Alan? Because I know it was regional. It was very regional. I mean, if anyone after this stream, just type in Gus Honeybun, you will see it, exactly what that is. I think it may have been featured in a wider ITV sort of documentary about regional programming. But yes, Gus Honeybun was a specific thing related to the southwest of England. Right, okay, the swap shop. The show encouraged children to call in, not only to request items for swapping, but also have their artwork and stories showcased. Again, building a sense of community and excitement from within the children who get their work showed on TV. And another one we all remember from children's TV, who used to show artwork in the gallery, but we all know that show. At least I think we should all know that show. Ed Stewart's Saturday morning show, radio show for kids records was good. Terry Scott. I don't remember that, Libertad. Terry Scott, what a legend. June. So Swap Shop, yeah, that was an interesting thing that it showcased. It showcased your art as well. I remember, I don't think I ever sent in any artwork. I used to love drawing as a kid. It was a platform for young talent and creativity to shine, and this sense of participation encouraged children to take an active role in their television experience, to interact. And it's weird to think that television back then we didn't have the internet and stuff. It's weird to think that we were encouraging that active role with what we were watching long before things like vote for your favorite dance on Strictly Tonight. They've always been, programs have always been trying to engage you and for you to interact with them. 5:15 p.m. read out birthdays. They did, Alan. Yes. Oh, fantastic. Yes. So they read your name and your address out then. I think they may have. They did. They did for the Swap Shop and Saturday Superstore. If you did something, you would put your name, you put how old you were, and you would put your town that you were from. I think. Vision On with Tony Hart, Pat Kiesel, and the prof. Was it the professor? The prof. Is that Mr. Bennett? Heartbeat. I think. Yes. Was it Vision On? He was around for quite a few years, wasn't he? I remember Take Heart with Morph and Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett. I think Vision On was the series. Was probably the first series that Tony Hart did. And every year when I hear that Tony Hart, on his anniversary of his death, I think, oh my God, Tony Hart's died. It's weird. It's weird. He's been dead for about 15 years. But every year I'm always shocked to hear that he's still dead. I don't know why. It's just a weird thought. It's like, anyway, I digress. Today's children's programming, dominated by on-demand content and streaming services, lacks the real-time interaction and sense of community. The absence of live phone-ins and shared experiences means that children TV often feels like a solitary endeavour. Which is probably watching it in their room, in their bedroom, on their flat-screen TV. Lacking the communal spirit that once defining characteristic of Saturday morning television. Another reason why British children's Saturday morning television is considered superior to today's programme is the diversity and variety of content it offered. I wanted to put the word diversity because Tiswas was diverse. I mean, look at it. I don't have to point out the obvious, but they had a diverse list of presenters and a diverse style of anarchic comedy. These shows were not limited to a single genre. They embraced a wide range of entertainment, education and creativity. Amazed Tony never got his puffy neckerchief covered in paint. I used to love that. I always think a cravat, like, I could probably get away with a cravat, not wearing a bloody rugby shirt, but I could probably get away with a cravat, I reckon. I've considered one. It's just dark. It's probably light because of the computer. Importantly, these shows encourage young viewers to engage with different types of content and develop a broad range of interests. The educational segments were often integrated seamlessly into the entertainment, providing a fun and informative experience. They did. There's an episode of Going Live that I found on YouTube while researching that little intro. And they're talking to Zamo's girlfriend from Grange Hill about drugs. And it's a segue into, ironically, Keith Chegwin saying that's really good because there's a lot of people out there with problems that they don't like talking about. And this is a really good way for anyone to ask us a question or ask a professional for some help. I thought, well, that's quite ironic considering Keith Chegwin's checkered career of being slightly, alcoholic. But they covered serious topics. And I think that was that they were a reflection, those shows are a reflection of the times, because obviously things like Grange Hill was making kids aware of the dangers of drugs. So it was reflected in those Saturday morning shows in that particular episode as well. Cheggers plays pop. Cheggers plays pop. Pop, pop. Cheggers plays pop. Genuine diversity as opposed to current box ticking. Agree with you, Robert. In contrast, contemporary children's programming driven by commercial interest in market research, box ticking, often sticks to narrow formulas, relying heavily on animated series with associated merchandise. Now, it was a little bit hypocritical for me to sort of write that, but I did think that mention with the sheer amount of children's toys being sold when you're watching ITV. Obviously on the BBC you didn't see all of that, but there's like 4 hours of children's toy adverts from the 80s. Merchandising was defined in the 80s. I mean, ever since things like Star Wars and stuff like that. However, I remember rarely did I put it onto ITV. Used to have the chart show on ITV. That was good. They made that cheaply because they didn't have a host. They just had a computer. It was like a computer and went on for an hour, and they just showed you their music videos. Because Top of the Pops was obviously doing the live stuff, and the chart show on ITV. It was great, but in between selling you toys, constant barrage of bloody toys. But I remember just really watching a lot of I used to watch a lot of BBC as a kid. A lot of BBC. According to Roland, was that Roland Rat? The guy Just say no. Oh no, Roland, the bigger, the rotund child from Grange Hill. In conclusion, so let's just. I was just going to say I don't want to go too much into this, but these shows may have their merits, but they lack the fun educational content that were integral to Saturday morning television of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Eric Mustafa, are we still connected? Mark Anderson, are we still connected? Are we still connected? That makes me worry. Yes, according to my end, we are still connected. I don't know whether you mean connected here or connected within the audience of children watching these shows. In conclusion, the British children's Saturday morning television shows of the past hold a special place in those who experienced it. The nostalgia it evokes, the sense of community it fostered, and the diversity of content it offered make it a hard act to follow for contemporary children's programming. I mean, yes, to actively encourage your children to engage with the programming, fostering a sense of belonging and participation. Moreover, they provide a wide variety of content from entertainment to education, helping children develop a broad range of interests. Are we still connected? That's a bit worrying the last thing I see. Are we still connected? Somebody tell me if we're still connected. Somebody write something, anything else, please. Just anything. Fantastic. Thank you, Alan. I was just a bit worried then. It's showing fine on my end, so I'm... While the world of media and technology has evolved, the legacy of British children's Saturday morning television endures. The nostalgia, sense of community, diverse content continue to resonate with those who experienced it, reminding us of a time when Saturday mornings were a magical and cherished part of childhood. As we look back on the golden era, we are reminded of the enduring power of quality children's programming that is both entertaining, engaging, and educational. Oh, all right, Mark. Thanks, mate. Yeah, it had me worried then. When I see something like that, I was like, oh, my God. Just say no, gang. Smoked Jay in the WH toilet. Was it WH Smith's, was it? Wow. Just say no. No. Just say no. I used to be a big fan of Grange Hill because it did enlighten me to the important issues of drugs and underage pregnancies. Oh, I didn't have to worry too much about that. And I mean, I'm not just saying that because I was a man. It's because it took me a long time. You don't really want to know that. I could talk about how long it was before I lost my virginity. But put it this way, they were making out and having sex on Grange Hill a long time before I got to experience it. Answers on a postcard. Hello, Vivian. How are you? Answers on a postcard. Answers on a postcard. When do you think I lost my virginity? Here's a hint. It was probably a good 10 series of Grange Hill. And everyone on Grange Hill was having sex. Even Mr. Baxter was having sex before I was. Yeah. We've certainly digressed from children's Saturday morning TV shows. So, yeah, I mean, what are some of your memories of it, of television shows that you remember really well? I mean, I was obsessed with Michaela Strachan, which is why I carried on watching children's TV well past my probably like 16, 17. That kept me watching that kind of just for the giggles and stuff. But I mean, I guess the most, if you know, it's a bit like a doctor, isn't it? It's like everyone's got their favorite doctor. Like everyone remembers a certain doctor, and you can gauge roughly how older the person is by which doctor they, generally speaking. Because I like Patrick Troughton. Well, that's because I rewatched Patrick Troughton a while back. But you can gauge their age and stuff. For me, it was Saturday Superstore. that was the guaranteed. I'd be watching that in the morning, and the one I remember watching right through to the end. And it going back over it again now, it made me realise just how much Sarah Greene was on TV. Like, she was everywhere. Sarah Greene was everywhere. She was, you know, obviously Blue Peter. Then you have the Saturday morning stuff, and then you know, later on you had her in the Most Haunted series in the late 80s. She was everywhere. She presented everything. She did a really good Jackanory as well, Alice in Wonderland Jackanory. Strange woman, really, because on paper you'd think that, you know, it's, you know, like a sex symbol, or but she never really appealed to me as somebody like that. She never really had that sex appeal thing. She was a pretty lady, but she was everywhere. She just seemed to be on everything. Alan says Superstore. Yes, that was. I used to love. There was a little robot. I tried to find a clip of it on YouTube. Do you remember the little robot? It was called Sithhead. Sithhead. I think that's what they named it. It was this like little toy robot that was on Mike Reed's desk. I had that. I was given that as a Christmas present. The official, I think it was called Sithhead. Maybe that's why I couldn't find it. It's probably not called Sithhead. But yeah, they had these shows. They all had like a little mascot, didn't they? Obviously, later on you get Gordon the Gopher, Roland Rat, Sithhead. Swap Shop had a dinosaur, like a pink Barney dinosaur. I don't know what his official name was. Rex, wasn't it, or something? But they all had this kind of show mascot, which again probably did turn into a merchandising kind of thing, because you could get you could own that yourself, and it became kind of it became a trademark. Zig and Zag, obviously Zig and Zag, who were brilliant on the Big Breakfast. Obviously that's not Saturdays. But there was puppets everywhere and mascots everywhere on these shows, which I guess does appeal to a sense of merchandising for an extra cash in on the popularity of, you know, because these were watched by millions. Like, I looked up the viewing figures of and I've got a really good resource right now. I'm paying a bloody fortune for it, but it's an archive of newspapers. And it's fantastic. It's got everything in it. Capital 194. I was in an art college in Farnham in the early 80s, and it seemed as though all the students watched Tiswas on a Saturday. So that show also appealed to those in their early 20s. I agree. Thank you. Nice to see a new name. I haven't seen you in here before, Capital. Thank you for joining us. Yes, I think the anarchic. I said at the start. I think that form of anarchy. I led the way to things like TFI Fridays and The Word, and I think it had a larger appeal than just children because of the music that they would have. I mean, there's clips of it on YouTube where you've got people like Paul McCartney and Phil Collins and stuff around that time performing live and stuff like that. And I think that it did. I think that form of anarchic comedy and the fact that they had huge stars of the time. Well, obviously, I'm not much of a Paul McCartney fan, I must admit, but they were huge stars, and I think that appeal makes it the age range of people watching vary greatly. So yeah, I can imagine that. Art college. I went to art college. What were people doing in art college in 2002? Watching Little Britain, I think. Cosmo and Dibs. I know the name. Why do I know the name of that? I can't place that, Alan, but I know the name of it. Video Diva. Hello. Good evening to you, Video Diva. Sorry, late to the party. Never late to the party, mate. You can come in late at any time. You can just drop in. And you can, stay as long as you want, and then you can, but no, it's just nice to see you here. Was discussing kids' TV with a friend, and there's no Saturday kids shows. As if kids want to watch 2 hours of cooking. Is that what we have now? You see, a lot of these kind of specific streams that I do on a specific subject, I really should back up my argument with by saying, you know, like, oh, it's not like it used to be, blah blah blah, because I don't watch any of it now. I don't really want to research that part because I kind of know enough to know what it's going to be like, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be Sally James unbuttoning a shirt and, you know, not saying that sold a children's TV program to me, but you know how PC everything has become. No, I mean, to be honest, Video Diva, I enjoy cooking, but I wouldn't watch 2 hours of cooking if that is the option of what's on. I don't know. I mean, Ready Steady Cook app, do they still have Ready Steady Cook? Is it Ainsley Harriott thing? Probably don't have that anymore. It's probably like 30 years ago. Red tomatoes, green peppers. You're just not going to get that kind of interaction with that. And I guess a lot of they know, the terrestrial TV knows that they're up against thousands of other channels, and not even getting into the part where sort of in the 90s that was already changing, because you had the video cassette or the DVD or the, you know, that thing that was taking you away from the television as a sense of family was already, you know, splintering off into different things, like a CD player that your kids have in their room or a DVD player. We're already losing that kind of audience kind of interaction in the 90s. But now, obviously, everything's vying for your kids' attention. So it's a shame, really, because when you have these Saturday morning shows, they, you know, okay, I paint the picture for you. For me, Saturday Superstore, in front of, you know, watching John Craven, Mike Reed, Sarah Green, Keith Chegwin, all of the team, watching that with my granddad and my grandma. Growing up in sort of a, you know, small town sort of thing, and we watch it, and they would be, when a cartoon came on, they would probably not be that interested, but I remember my granddad taking an interest in things like John Craven and stuff, and then, you know, I remember probably having numerous conversations where you'd see somebody's artwork being sent in, and your granddad would say something like, "You could do better than that. Come on, why don't you enter that competition?" You know, that kind of interaction stuff is just not around anymore, is it? So, because everyone's off doing their own bloody thing. Yeah, seen a few CFF on Talking Pictures. I Love a Hitch in Time and Patrick Troughton. I love Patrick Troughton. What a great Doctor Who he was. Well, I think they're like one of his first series is sort of remains like wiped. I think a lot of the episodes aren't available. Patrick Troughton, most of the others are. I don't know what happened with Troughton's stuff, but sort of like wiped some of those. There's only like radio plays remaining of it, I think. The Boy on the Flying Bike. Where are we? Video Diva. The close the Talking Pictures show. It's Children's Film Foundation. Children's Film Talking Pictures. I didn't know that. I love Talking Pictures. I mean, I always reference Talking Pictures because of all the Rooms episodes. I don't want to be the one that's sort of like, I don't want a copyright strike from them, because I really respect what Talking Pictures do. And I don't have, I have a Fire Stick. I wish I had satellite as, well, not, I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what it is anymore. I used to be on Sky Plus back years ago, 20 years ago. That was the last time I had a TV license and a satellite. I don't mind a cooking show, but 2 hours, and as a kid, not sure I'd want that. No, as a kid, no, you wouldn't. Why don't you used to have some really good weapons? Why don't you used to have some really good recipes in there? And why don't you used to be on Saturdays as well? Or was it Sundays? Somebody might need to correct that, but I'm pretty sure it was Saturday. And there was be a little 2-minute segment of some kids making, you know, homemade waffles or whatever it would be. Robert Graves says, I guess mainstream TV have given up on kids like they've given up on music shows and edgy comedy. I think they have, because they know there's just too much competition out there, Robert. They know that they can't keep the kids' attention span, because, I mean, most children now, let's face it, with the world that we live in, ADHD it's been on the rise for years, ever since social media. Nobody's made that connection. But you know, social media and the whole swiping and the whole short attention span. Oh look, there's a cat. There's a cat. Oh, there's a dog. Oh look, there's what. It's the kids can't stay focused on anything for longer than like we used to have the MTV generation, didn't we? Where it'd be like, I mean, I never liked the MTV generation, which was like, well, you know, we have their attention for 5 seconds, and every other 5 seconds is we need something to pull them back in because they're gonna go else. I mean, that was back then. Music and MTV generation and stuff. What it is now with the TikTok generation. I don't even want to think of how many kids suffer with ADHD today. I really don't. I mean, that's a whole. I don't want to get too political. I guess mainstream TV have given up on kids like that. Yes, I agree. I think they have. And so Mark agrees with you, Robert. There, Keith Floyd was good, Rick Stein good, but now no chance. Keith Floyd. Do you know Keith Floyd tried to ram me off the road once, going from Asprington in Totnes? He was going to his restaurant or his pub. What was his pub called? Tuckenhay Inn, something like that. It was. I remember because Dawn French lives around there as well, and Rick Mail used to live around there, and I just remember being in my Ford Cortina, which was my first car. It was about 1992, something like that, and I wish I still had that car now, because it'd be worth a mint. I was in a Ford Cortina Mark III, yeah, the cool one. That looked a little bit like an American one. I was in that, and I was driving along, and it was always a bit dodgy. This car, even though it looked great, it was you know, it was already 25 years old, I think, when I picked it up. I just remember like with my girlfriend, we were driving to the pub. Not his pub, not the Tuckenhay Arms or whatever it was called. We were going to the Durrant Arms in Asprington, and this guy was up my arse all the way, and I was like, oh, he's like a Mercedes or something, and he was trying to overtake, and me being me, it was like he's not going to overtake on a single lane. Surely he can't overtake on a single lane. So I sort of, when I saw he was going to overtake, I sort of moved the back end of the car out a bit, and my girlfriend's like, oh, he's getting really angry. He was coming up, and then he started beeping his horn, and I was doing about 40 miles an hour, and I'm thinking, this is lanes, you know, this isn't like a motorway or anything, it's just a single track lane. So anyway, eventually I slowed down, and Keith Floyd zoomed right past me, and my girlfriend goes, oh, it's Keith Floyd, and he went, you fucking assholes, something like that. Just literally, we got the word assholes as he flew past, and he was sort of like, he cut me up as he overtook as well, and he zoomed off, and he was swerving around the corners. He must have been hammered. He's got to have been hammered. But yeah, that was my Keith Floyd story. Nearly drove me off the bloody road. Nearly wrote my Cortina off. Rick Stein. And there's a thing at the moment called Rip Off Rick, isn't there? About Rick Stein and his Padstow restaurant charging £17 for some cod and chips. Thanks, Alan. Yes. I don't know why it's... Oh, there we go. There we go. Yes, I did like Keith Floyd though. I did like him, but not that day. It's a psychopath in a Mercedes. I think he was. I don't think people like working with him. My nan, who used to work in Dartmouth, used to work in this place called the Fruit Basket, which used to supply all the restaurants in the area in the South Hams with fresh fruit and veg. And he used to demand that he get all the good fruit and veg that comes in, and not to fob him off on ones that were kind of under the shelf, not under the shelf, but say they'd arrived the day before, and they used to get daily deliveries, because they used to supply to a lot of these restaurants down in Dartmouth and the surrounding areas, go as far as Salcombe. And I remember my nan saying, how he was arrogant and rude to the owner of this shop where Manam worked. Yeah, he didn't have many friends, Keith Floyd. I know his son, he couldn't stand him. All right, okay. I mean, as a persona on TV, he was fun. He was fun. I just don't think you'd want to deal with it in real life, because his reputation preceded him. Bit of a loose cannon, public schoolboy. I think so, Robert. Yeah, I think so. I think Rick Stein's a little bit more laid back. Although I have heard things about him, that there was about 10 years ago that the pay that he was paying his staff at the new restaurant, and he basically, what do they call it, like Rickstow now or something? Instead of Padstow, they call it Rickstow, because he owns like half of the town, with various ventures here, there, and everywhere. But he's not. I mean, he's not, as far as I remember, a great employer as well. Rick Stein, and these are questionable people, aren't they? But they're huge. They were huge popular television kind of characters, really, aren't they? They are living their character. I have been to the Rick Stein's restaurant and had fish and chips, and I have to say, I think I paid 12 quid. This was going back 5 years ago, something like that, 4 years ago. I remember thinking it was expensive. And he didn't cook it. It's not like Rick Stein's out the back, frying up a cod. He ain't anywhere near that place. But it's done to his recipe, blah, 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 blah. And I will say the best thing about it were the peas. I thought the fish was fine, but it wasn't small. It was quite a good portion, but no different than, a standard a good fish and chip sort of thing. But the peas, the mushy peas, they were really nice. They were really nice. I like the mushy peas. So if you go to Rick Stein's restaurant down in Padstow, just order a large adult portion of mushy peas. Forget about the fish. Just go there around the corner. There's a nice little fish and chip shop around the corner that catches locally sourced fish. Buy it there and just have the peas from Rick Stein's. There you go. You can afford that. I think the peas are like £2, something like that. So they're probably about 3 quid now. Well, we've changed a lot from Saturday morning TV. We always do. We always go off topic. That's why I love these streams. I didn't want to go into too much more about Saturday's stuff. I think putting together a little reminder for people, and I think just, writing a little bit as opposed to an epic 10,000-word dissertation on Del Boy and Arthur Daly is the wrong way of going. It's funny, on the present Saturday morning TV show, they show old clips of Stein and Floyd. It's that bad. Do they? Oh my God. Sorry to dwell on Floyd, but didn't someone track him down in the south of France only for him to die a day or two later? He owed loads of money. I'm sure he did. I know his restaurant. It was called the Maltzers. The Maltzers Inn. It was in Tuckenhay, Totnes. It was called the Maltzers, and I'm pretty sure the Maltzers itself, when he died, he left so much debt, like huge amount of debt. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the south of France, probably getting away from all his debt, possibly. We're still on Saturday morning now. Now it's all cooking shows. Oh, because that's what Video Diva was saying. Cooking shows. What? Oh my God, that's so sad. That's so sad. I mean, I like cooking, but there is no chance of forming a bond with your family. And again, I don't want to be the hypocrite, but I don't have kids, never have had kids. But I'm pretty sure that if I had kids, that kind of communal sort of viewing experience, no one's going to sit there and watch, Rick Stein cook whelks. A kid's not going to be interested in that, is he? Well, or she. Well, they may be. Excuse me. I'm going to vape. I haven't vaped much. No, and I think that's sad. If I had kids, and I was about my age now, and they were about, say 8 or 9, I'd be fearful about what they're watching on TV, just as fearful as I would be about what they're being taught in the classroom, because I think the reflection of what's happening in today's schools is a reflection of what's happening in today's entertainment. They've either given up on a Saturday and they don't really invest in any kind of thought process. I mean, there used to be programmers that would, you know, a lot of research would go into the audience that were watching at the time and what programs would be good for children as well as adults. There was all of that. We've lost all of that because they don't bother anymore. They just put fucking reruns of cooking programs on. Saturday mornings for me was all about Batman. That's the original Batman series, isn't it? Or was that the cartoon? Because I remember the cartoon as well, and I remember the original. The original. I'm not a superhero person. I can't stand superhero movies, apart from Superman, Superman 2, and Superman 3. A soft spot for Superman 3. Superman 4 is shite. Batman cartoon. I remember that. That's pretty cool, actually. The Batman cartoon. That was pretty damn cool. I remember that. As I say, I remember Arabian Nights. That was a good cartoon. And I remember a thing called Snaggletooth. It was like this guy that would turn into... He was a werewolf. Snagglepuss. Am I right in thinking that? I've meant to track that down. I vaguely remember. I think it was like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. But Saturday morning was the kids' shows. Sports in the afternoon for the dads and family viewing in the evening. It was, wasn't it, Video Diva? We're forgetting it because at 12:15 on BBC One every Saturday. I'm trying to remember the theme tune, but it was Grandstand. It was Dickie Davis. And I do remember they used to have wrestling on then. So sometimes that was enough to keep the kids watching. A bit of wrestling with Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. It was sort of mid-80s around that time. But yes, it was. And then you're right. It brought... So you had the children at the beginning in the morning. You had your parents watching the sport through the day. And then you all came back together. What a perfect Saturday for television. Can we just please just go back to 4 fucking channels? Can we just do that? I wouldn't miss it. I really wouldn't miss it. I mean, Netflix, Amazon Prime, 1,000 channels. All right, Talking Pictures TV is... I'd miss that. But if we could just go back to 4 channels, maybe we can equate a Saturday with the family in that nostalgic sense that we had then. It's a very good point. Thank you, Video Diva. Yes, it was all formulated. It had a reason to be on at that time. It had a lot of thought that go into a schedule. We don't get that. Capital 194. What's the obsession with cooking shows? I think the first British cooking show I saw here in the US was the Two Fat Ladies, wasn't it? Wasn't it called that? Not very PC. It was, yes. Two Fat Ladies. Never watched that show. And first of all, thank you, Capital 194, for joining us in this chat. You are from the US. Two Fat Ladies. I'm not sure. I think you probably got things like Jamie Oliver. You probably got... I think Keith Floyd did a tour of the US. But I guess it wasn't until sort of like the 90s, around that time, where a lot of British shows probably came to the US. Two Fat Ladies was huge here. I never watched it, but it was huge. Funny how there's Batman shampoo, but no conditioner for... That'll go over my head. Hold on. That'll go over my head. It's a Marvel Batman thing, or DC, or whatever you want to call them. Funny how Batman shampoo, but funny how there's a Batman shampoo, but no conditioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon. Conditioner. It's something to do with Gordon, isn't it? He was a. Oh, I don't know. Danger Mouse was pretty good. Yes, Danger Mouse was Capital 194. Because David Jason and Terry Scott did the voices. The cartoon itself, yeah, it was all right. But the voices by those two greats of British television, they made that. They really did make that. Alan Hargreaves, Voice of Reason, World of Sport. Yes, that was Dickie Davis. Was Dickie Davis World of Sport? Was that ITV? Or was that Grandstand? Oh, there was that. I can see another guy now. David Vine. David Vine. And there was somebody else used to do it as well. I think David Vine did Grandstand. Grandstand World of Sport on ITV with Dickie Davis, with the wrestling. Dickie Davis was the wrestling. Yes, Video Diva. I think that's the right. Batman Tiz was World of Sport, sports results, then Kung Fu. Kung Fu with David Carradine, yes. Oh my God. And Monkey. I think Monkey may have been on Saturday as well. OTT. Over the top. There was always one inappropriately, unconvincingly camp wrestler. Who was that then, Mark? Who was that? Because all I remember is Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy. I'd love to. If there was a camp wrestler going against Giant Haystacks, that would be central viewing right there. Iron Fist, Clive Myers. Yeah, was that one of the camp ones? Because Mark's agreeing with you, Alan. With a name like Iron Fist, I don't think it sounded camp. It'd be like, no, I won't say that. I do think the extra channels has contributed to the demise of quality shows, says Video Diva. It's spread so thin now, and you don't get the water cooler moment anymore when anyone's watching same shows at the same time. Correct. There are a couple of shows that I think still do that. And I think Strictly, even though the BBC hold on to this like it's like the last remaining grasp at popularity, I think Strictly still has that water cooler moment for some people, for the normies. And I hate using that word, but I hear some of those normies here. I hear them in the marina when I'm walking around the marina on a Sunday or something, and I've overheard conversations about, did you see so and so? They did a good dance. I think those shows, whether you like them or not, still have a certain amount of community, like watching them. And when you do watch them, you're part of the little community. And I think Strictly is the last of the British Broadcasting Corporation's grasp on that sense of everyone's watching it. And that's, I mean, you've got to look at the viewing figures. I've got, as I said, I was on I'm putting together a rather special Christmas Day stream, and it's I'm not going to say anything more about it, but I've started it already. I think most people here probably know what it could be about, but it's but basically I've been looking through the schedules, and you forget things like Saturday Superstore in 1985 was getting 9 million people, 9 million kids, if you like, watching that. 9 million. I mean, and then to go to BBC One, the Morecambe and Wise Christmas show from 1973, 24 million people. I mean, that's a lot of water cooler moments, isn't it, Video Diva? It's a lot of water cooler moments. Robert Graves, I seem to remember that the American shows that took up some of Saturday morning TV were already 10 to 15 years old by the time they got to us in the mid-70s. Weird cultural lag. Yeah, that's an odd one. That is, I mean, that's the I think that's always kind of been the way. I don't think it is anymore. It's instantaneous now. It drops in the US. It will drop in the UK. It will like then vice versa. I don't think it's as much anymore. But yeah, that's a huge cultural lag right there. 15 years. I seem to remember that American shows that took up some of Saturday morning TV were already 10 to 15 years. I've just read that. Duh. I remember Dickie Davis's swish hairdo with that fleck of grey, which just had to be fake. It did. He looked like... Who did he look like? He looked like there's a certain animal that's got that. It's not a skunk. It's not the skunk's tail. Swish of hairdo. Kendo Nagasaki. Oh, was that the camp wrestler? I'm not gonna stereotype it, but if he was Japanese, he probably, was quite small compared to Giant Haystacks. Martian Chronicles, 1:20 AM, late Saturday night. Hello, Lucid Moment 71. Thank you for joining us. That's a name I haven't seen. There's a few names here tonight which I haven't seen, which is lovely, which is really nice. I enjoy seeing new names. I'm old enough to remember when Emmerdale was just a farm. Wow. Well, Lucky Moment 71. That is quite some time ago, isn't it? Emmerdale Farm. I think I always referenced it as Emmerdale Farm, and I think most people still do, to be honest. I know that it's been Emmerdale for probably 30 years now, but it's but yeah, I remember Emmerdale Farm. I remember it as like, it was always a soap opera that I never really watched that much of, but I always would call it Emmerdale Farm for years. It's a bit like when they changed the Snickers bar. No, Marathon. That's what I meant. And I was calling it Marathon for 10 years. Amazing. Hello, Tommy Steele. You're amazing. Tommy Steele's amazing. Amazing. Thanks for joining us, Tommy Steele. Is that the real Tommy Steele? That would be some magic right there. Old School Fool says that 6 years between the Major and I is really showing tonight. Oh, am I waffling on about? I think it's when I'm reading some of your comments, I'm not quite getting it. Yeah, I guess 6 years on paper it doesn't look like much. Because, you know, where we share other similarities, but it's quite a lot in television years, in what we were watching, I guess. And I think that probably reflects on Mango's when she said at the beginning of the stream about 70s, 80s and 90s children's Saturdays. It was, I think it's a big difference. There's a big difference. Like, I'm not really a 70s child. I obsess about the 70s because I do have memories of the 70s, but I spend a lot of time watching 70s things now, and I have done for the last 20 or 30 years, music wise and television and film, especially film and cinema. But it's a cut-off point, really. It's like, that's why I said for me it's sort of mid-80s for me when I started taking note of television. So I guess that 6 years, yeah, around that point, it is quite big if you think about it, because I would have been, say, 10 and you would have been 16, and that's a huge, and for children's stuff in between and things like that, it's quite a big difference, because, you know, when you're 16, you're definitely not like when you were 10. You know, you're thinking about women for a start. Agree about SCD because it's live. I remember watching Vic and Bob as a teen and talking about it at school the next day, because we didn't have catch-up or able to watch all the episodes early, like with Ghosts. Vic and Bob. I used to love Vic Reeves' Big Night Out. Was it Big Night In? Was it Big Night Out? I remember the one where Vic is crawling along the floor and he's like, "Here, Bob." And he's like, "What is it, Vic? What is it, Vic?" And he's like, I'm watching that Keith Barron. He's just like got his eye. He can't get his eye away from the floor of the stage. And he's like, I'm watching that Keith Barron. He's in that Duty Free. Such a bizarre, like, 2 or 3 minute sketch. I bloody loved Vic and Bob at the time. And I still do. I mean, Bob Mortimer's a bit of a legend. He's doing his own, like, YouTube channel and stuff with, why have I forgotten his name? From the Fast Show. Remember ATV, says Tommy Steele. I do remember ATV had a bloody good logo, and I've used it in several of my parody spoof videos. BBC dropped all Ghosts, so you don't need to watch them week by week. Okay, oh, did they do that, did they? So all in one go. Binge watching. That's another way of destroying the memories of things, because I just don't agree with binge watching. That's why I'm enjoying the long chase weekly. I love that. You take more in. Anglian. I remember Anglian, the horse and the flag, the man with the flag. Old School Fool. Yes, lucid, no murders, just arguments over open gates. Emmerdale Funny Farm now. This is Robert Graves. It's still going strong. My late mother used to be a big fan of Emmerdale, but later on when she fell quite poorly, she never watched it. And I remember thinking something was wrong if she wasn't going to be watching Emmerdale. Video Diva. Adrian Street was a camp wrestler. Oh, Kendo was the tough samurai type guy who wore a mask. Ah, Adrian Street. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of a Google on that guy. See what we got there. Mark Anderson says, Robert and I may be of a similar age. I recall we had The Wonderful World of Colour and The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau, also Marine Boy cartoon series from, I think, Japan. None of those, apart from Jacques Cousteau, and I know a little bit of Jacques Cousteau, mainly from Wes Anderson's superb film The Life Aquatic with Bill Murray, which it's a love-hate movie. You either love that or you hate it, but I adore that film. And I remember learning a lot about Jacques Cousteau from that, and also The Big Blue, the 1986 film by Luc Besson. So no, out of those things that you mentioned there, Mark, I wish I could. I remember Stingray. No, I just thought of that. That was sort of Saturday morning sometimes. Stingray. I remember that. Mark says all imported series to the BBC for Saturday mornings. Is that what it's like now? Is it? Lucid Moment 71 says Pitkins, Mary Mungo and Midge. I know both of those names. I don't know it. The Lost Island, the Tomorrow People, I know. The Tomorrow People, I know, which I watched for the first time in the 90s. Catweasel, which we've had conversations on this channel about in the past. Both Tomorrow People and Catweasel were repeated well into the 80s. Robert Gray says, yep, same era. Kendo was not actually Japanese, but a big white guy from Yorkshire. So don't tell the PC Brigade, Alan. They'll be calling it racist next. Brilliant. Yes, Alan, I think he lives outside Wolverhampton now. Somebody should do a documentary on him. That would be brilliant. I'm going to look this guy up. He's going to look up a bit of wrestling after the stream and see what I can find. As I say, I'm working on a specific stream that I plan on doing live at Christmas, and I've subscribed to an archive of newspapers and stuff. And I mean, I've been in my element. I've been reading interviews with lots of things, and I'm putting together a stream specifically for Christmas, a festive stream. Thanks so much. Yes, Adrian Street, says Mark. Alan says Video Plus, Brian Glover, and of course Jimmy Savile. Yes, Jimmy Savile was a wrestler. They didn't mention any of that in that recent Abomination with Steve Coogan, The Reckoning. They didn't mention anything about Savile's. They certainly didn't. Basically, they just didn't want to give you any moment where Savile wasn't a monster. And we all know he's a monster, but it's such an exploitative. Oh, I hated that. And I think Coogan's Jimmy Savile is great, but I don't want to get onto that topic again. But yeah, they didn't mention any of that stuff. They certainly didn't sort of want to go that route. But Brian Glover, what a legend! Brian Glover, you can't let them go. Oh, Brian, I always think of Brian Glover. But there's a great play called The Fishing Party. BBC play for today with Brian Glover in. Absolutely brilliant actor. But I always think of his great, short but memorable role in Landis's masterpiece, American Werewolf in London. Old school fool. Kendo had a big moment in telly when they finally unmasked him in the ring. He had glowing red eyes. It was quite a big deal. They really sounds amazing. If he's still alive, he must be in his late 70s. Got to be now, isn't he? From Wolverhampton. I'd be fascinated to that time of British wrestling. And it was it was before all the, obviously America had the World Wrestling Federation, and you've got the Hulk Hogans that would make it bigger over here eventually. But you've got to remember that we had some good wrestlers as well. I mean, it's all utter bollocks. But for showmanship, for sheer sort of show and entertainment, I mean, Big Daddy was pretty big. What was his real name? Shirley Crabtree or something. I remember him Oh, I used to enjoy watching that. I used to have an uncle that came down from London, a big guy, big, huge guy. Most of the people in my family are huge, but sadly he died a long time ago. But I remember being a kid and I would jump all over him on the sofa when the wrestling was on, and he'd be throwing me around, and it was such a great memories of that. Ace of Wands, or was that shown at a different time? Don't know that. I don't know that one, Robert. Some of the old women in the audience of the wrestling would attack the baddies with handbags. That's such a British. That's so British, isn't it? That's like, that would not translate well to Hulk Hogan, would it? That's definingly British. Oh my God. Bring that back. We were always a little bit harsh. Well, I was never harsh on it, but you're people that would say, "Oh, it's all fixed. You know who's going to win before you go." It's this. No, you're just not getting the point of it. You're not seeing the funny side of like having an old biddy hit somebody with their handbag and they fall out of the ring. I mean, it's great. It's great. It's great. It's a forming a sense of community with people watching this stuff. AOW was more of an evening show, Robert. Ace of Wands, Old School Fool. I don't know that one. You are saying things tonight that I must admit I'm a bit Ace of Wands. I know the name of that. I probably know who's in it. Mark Anderson at Robert Graves. Same era, but ITV weekdays after school. Great stuff. Weekdays, ITV weekdays. Weekdays after school. I remember before Neighbours, and it used to be the Flintstones. 5:35, the Flintstones. And then Neighbours, which I did watch up until 1990 because I was addicted to Neighbours, and I love Kylie Minogue, and she made it into that little tribute as well, which Glover as the football ref in Kes. Brilliant. Old School Fool. Ken Loach. Saw that in A-level media. Watched it in A-level media. First time I saw it. And then watched it again at uni when I studied British cinema, even though I'd learned a vast amount about British cinema myself. I didn't really... Although that did introduce me to a terrible film called Young Soul Rebels. One of the lecturers we had was a big fan of like punk music and stuff like that. And Young Soul Rebels was it was a very amateurish film. It's got merit. It's got a kicking soundtrack. Terribly directed, poorly acted by. I don't think anyone was really professional. But anyway, I've digressed. Gone on to British cinema. Let's get back off of British cinema. Louvre, says Video Diva, The Fishing Party. It was one of a trilogy, the second being Shakespeare or Bust, where they travel I've seen that's very true. I didn't realise there was three. I knew that one to Stratford-on-Avon, and the third is missing. I haven't. That's going down on my list. I know there were two. I know they went out sort of like late 70s, 77 or something, wasn't it? I think. Old School Fool says, I stand corrected, Mark. Mark says, it wasn't all great in the early 70s. Junior Showtime and Bloody Awful and Guaranteed Switchover. Junior Showtime. Capital 194 says, wrestling is performance art. Very true. Very true. It's colourful. It's funny. It's got a part of sport in it. You can see why, anyone rooting for someone, the competitive nature that wrestling gave you, even though you knew it was utter bollocks, the competitive nature of a sport was there. So you side with one and you follow one, and it's like it has all of that. But yes, and so it crosses genres. It's what wrestling does. It's not just sport. It's a lot of things in there as well. So they should put that back on. Weekdays ITV Terrorhawks, Mork and Mindy. Yes, Alan, I know Terrorhawks used to scare the crap out of me as a kid. Zelda, or her name, the evil one. Mork and Mindy, yes, that's where I think being introduced to a young age to a great Robin Williams. Mork and Mindy was a fine comedy, and I used to quite fancy Mindy. What was her name? Jane Diva? No, I can't remember her name. She was nice. She was pretty. She used to wear dungarees. I've got a thing about dungarees as well, but you don't need to know that. Isaac Julian, says Alan Hargreaves. Correct. Yes, that's the Young Soul Rebels guy. We studied it. And as I said, there are elements to it. There's, I love things like Jubilee. But Jarman is on a different level, I think. I just couldn't get into Young Soul Rebels, apart from the music, which I thought was great. Summertime Specials, Sunny Side Up, awful. I've posted Old School Fool. I've posted some of those. I love those kind of like production dances that they had at the time. The singers and dancers that would be on like the Ken Dodd show or Little and Large show. There's a couple of videos out there. I'm always looking for more of that. I love the cheesiness of Summertime Special. They had those dancers on there as well. When they couldn't get the original band, they just have the dancers dancing to the song. What was the name of the cinema quiz show back in the day? Ooh, lucid moment, you've got me there. What was the name of the cinema? Pam Dorber. Thank you, Video Diva. What was the name of... That's Mindy from Mork and Mindy. I remember Telly Addicts with Noel Emmons. I remember not Movie Drone. What's that one with the guy who used to host Big Brother? Channel 4's movie review show. What was that one called? They rated it by... I don't know. Obviously, Barry Norman, but he didn't do a quiz show. Screen Test. Lucid Moment 71. I remember that. Screen Test. I remember that now you've written it. Who hosted that? Alan Hargreaves says Barry Norman, great critic. Not. He got it wrong. He got it wrong like big time once. He got it wrong big time. He hated David Lynch. He just hated David Lynch movies. He liked Blue Velvet. I remember seeing his review of that. He liked Blue Velvet. But yeah, I agree. I'm only being pedantic because he didn't like one director that one of my favourite directors. So I just Barry Norman. He also didn't review. Mind you, neither did the BFI. Like all of those obscure films that we love in the 70s were kind of disregarded and disowned as it's the terrible 70s where it's just like sex comedies and there's not anything worthy of our interest in that. They were a little bit up their own arse. Barry Norman was a little bit like the establishment, like the BFI in the 80s and 90s. They were sort of snobbery where they were all like, if it's not Merchant Ivory, it's going to be a bit crap. And Merchant Ivory, crap. I mean, most of the stuff they did is the same bloody film over and over again, and it takes... I can't remember who did a sketch once where it was like they took the piss out of like maybe even Jane Austen. And I quite like Jane Austen. I can't remember who it was. It was like they were, is that? Would you like to? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, come through. Oh, I'll go to. Merchant Ivory films. All of them have something like that in it. Take about 15 minutes to cross the floor into the door to do something. There is all so very British. It's so very British. And I think Barry Norman and the BFI in the 80s were a little bit, less enthused to talk about, Psychomania. And now the BFI have changed. They've got like a flip side Blu-rays, haven't they? With, and pretending that they've always thought these films were great. It's like the BFI flip side proudly presents Derek Ford's Wife Swappers, one of the great remaining sex comedy. It's like, no, you hated all of that shit in the 80s. You turned your nose up on it for a bloody Merchant Ivory thing. And now you're suddenly like, releasing them in 4K transfers. They're a little bit hypocritical. And I think Barry Norman, if there was one criticism, was that, but he's, it's on the BBC. It's BBC One, popular show. He's not really going to be reviewing something that probably only a very small amount of a cult audience has seen. So it is of its time. But other than that, I did like Barry Norman. Thanks for Alan for mentioning Barry Norman. Screen Test, BBC Clapperboard TV. Okay, I've got to find that out, Mark. I've got to watch Screen Test. I can't remember who was that. Debbie Greenwood. Debbie Greenwood. Do you remember Debbie Greenwood, the host? Young Filmmaker of the Year, BBC. The Movie Quiz. Michael Rodd. Then Brian Truman. Those names don't ring a bell, old school fool. But I will be looking that up because Screen Test does ring a bell. The music from Picture Box was always quite freaky. Yes, it was. Lucid Moment 71. It was. It was one of those kind of like iconic children's theme tunes. All around that time, they had some pretty freakish soundtracks, some of them. Old school fool, yeah. Chris Kelly, Clapperboard. Chris Kelly. Did he do Game for a Laugh? Was that? No, that's not. That's Henry Kelly. No, Matthew Kelly. No. Chris Kelly. Chris Kelly. Chris Kelly. Did he do like that Kickstart, the bike thing with the kids as well? I remember Norman reviewing Mark for Death with Steven Seagal. Oh, but now critics are all licking bum. Yes, they are, Alan. But I just imagine Barry Norman ripping into Mark for Death. That's a classic Seagal movie there, and that guy's not. I liked the first three films, Nico, or as it was known in America, Mark for Death, I think. No, that was Nico. Yeah, it was Nico. And then you've got Out for Justice. I like those three. There's a trilogy of Steven Seagal, the first trilogy, and I got a soft spot, I have to say, for Under Siege. But yeah, Menage by Lazare Bachet. Oh, theme. That was the theme from Picture Box, was it? Ooh, interesting. I love the fact that. I love the fact you know that, old school fool. That impresses me. Yeah, Chris Kelly. Peter Purvis. Peter Purvis! That was him. Kickstart. Yes, Lucid Moment. I used to love Kickstart as well. My dad used to have a Triumph. So I'm not up on my bikes now, but his first bike was a Triumph. Oh, bloody hell. Forgotten the name of it. Very famous one. A Triumph Bonneville. Triumph Bonneville. Got there in the end. And I think he always secretly wanted me to get an interest in bikes. And I did a little bit through Kickstart. And there was also another one at that time, Lucid Moment, that had kayaking. They would do kayaking. They would go canoeing, not kayaking, canoeing, and they would do a course. I think that was another one anyway. Was Chris Kelly on Food? Chris Kelly was the guy from Food and Drink. Thank you, Video Diva. I knew I'd recognised his name. Yes, he was on the BBC Two show Food and Drink. Robert Graves. Was the Picture Box theme played at the weird glass? Played on that weird glass instrument, the name of which eludes me. Someone will know. Do 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 do. That's the music, I think. I don't know what that weird instrument is, Robert. Somebody here might know it. I can just bastardize it in a rough idea of what my memory is of remembering it. Yes, Food and Drink. Jilly Goulden. Yeah, Jilly Goulden. Whatever happened to her? Even boys, 1970s dream a schoolboy scrambler. Every boy's 1970s dream a schoolboy scrambler. Capital 194. Go with Noakes was another somewhat educational kids show. Anything with John Noakes was always good, wasn't it? I mean, I know how legendary he was, put it that way, even though he didn't have much of an influence on. I guess for me, my Noakes was Peter Duncan. Peter Duncan did some pretty crazy stuff as well. I wouldn't say it was educational, but it was certainly like stunts and appealed to me on that. Duncan Dares. Old school for glass harmonica, aka glass harmonium. It's a lovely sounding instrument, though. It really is. Crystal Bochet instruments consisting of glass rods and resonators. Brilliant. Wow. A distinct sound that you could say is distinctly 70s. I'm trying to think of something else that uses that. Would Tales of the Unexpected sound a little bit like that? If Richard was in here, he'd say Tales of the Obvious. Where is Richard? Oh, I miss old Richard. So we got a good lots of people in here tonight, and lots of conversations that are good. But wonder what Richard's up to. Video Diva says John Noakes at the top of Nelson Column. It's insane, the lack of health and safety, but glorious to watch. It's a bit like the steeplejack. What's he called? Fred Dibner, isn't it? Video Diva. I'm scared shitless of heights, and I've watched a couple of Dibner's stuff. And John Noakes would be the same. Yes, the thought of being on top of Nelson's Column is too high for me. But Fred Dibner, I mean, he's in a world of his own, wasn't he? Jesus Christ, that guy. Got no fear whatsoever. Absolutely no fear whatsoever. Oh, shit. Excuse me while I just try and pick up that. Yeah, I genuinely am scared of heights. So whenever I watched any of those people do it, whether it was Fred Dibner or whether it was John Noakes or Duncan Dares, it was if it was high up, it was scary. Makes me ill just watching it. Says Lucid Moment. Yeah, that's pretty much. The first and last time I really tried VR, and I'm not a fan of all of that stuff now. I like gaming, but I'm quite into the old sort of games. But I did try VR, and I was challenging myself to break away from the scared of heights thing by playing a specific game that said if you're scared of heights, then I can't remember the game itself, but I got it from that. My legs went all weird. I don't like heights. Richard was last seen eating a Chinese. I remember that from last week. He said, what was it? Say hello to her for me or something. Somebody said the classic joke. Oh, yes, he is. He was last seen eating a Chinese. Well, hopefully it was. It didn't have any food poisoning. Tales of the Bloody Obvious theme was on a pipe organ. Tales of the Bloody Obvious theme was a pipe organ and bells. Oh, okay. Video Diva, it's great. Just sitting a bit of wood, collecting bird shit. Just sitting a bit of wood and collecting bird shit. Why did Noakes get all the crap jokes while Purvis got all of the cushy numbers? I think maybe it's probably something to do with purely something to do with feeling easier and you know, in the studio and stuff. Peter Duncan went up to, if I remember right, Peter Duncan went to the top of Big Ben. They were doing a restoration on Big Ben, and he was hanging outside of that for a fair bit of time as well. I remember that. Or was that John Noakes? Maybe it was John Noakes. But yeah. Old school fool. You know what? I was going to write down something and I was going to hold it up. I was going to hold it, and now I've just ruined that joke for next Saturday, haven't I? I was going to write down, did they ever do Coca-Cola Toffos? So when you were asking, I was just going to pick that card up and do that. Bollocks. I knew there was something I had to do. Oh, well, it won't work now because I'm not going to do that now. I was watching The Flower of Gloucester and couldn't believe the small kid in the first episode riding. I know, that's insane. Health and safety. That's over the Ponticiliac. Is it Pont? I don't know. It's somebody from Wales will correct me. Ponticiliac Viaduct. Yeah, I mean, it's an eye-opener, isn't it? The cameraman is like way off back on the land, just filming them with a really long zoom, like a 180mm zoom or something. He's got the safety of the land, but the kid and the kid falls in the canal as well. I mean, good God, you wouldn't want to fall in the canal nowadays. You wouldn't really want to fall in the canal back in 1967, but they just didn't care. It's like, I can imagine that kid, right, for this scene, you're going to have to get into the canal. You're going to have to fall into the canal trying to reach your bike. Oh, great fun, yeah! I can imagine a kid being really up for that, but, I just wouldn't work today, would it? Wouldn't work today. Old school fool, the sweets, yes. If that's what you meant. I hated the banana favour. Lucid moment. Yes, it's an ongoing gag as well with the toffos. I at one point I seem to be mentioning it on every stream. An old school fool is always in there with the question. Alan Hargreaves says, voice of reason says banana was best. I'm sure they did a Coca-Cola one though, Alan. I'm sure it was. It just didn't have. They weren't allowed to use the official. It probably was like a cola toffo. Peter Duncan dared to thrust his hand into a slimy hole in Flash Gordon. He did, yeah, and that was a. Do you know what? Flash Gordon. Was it Mike Nichols? No, not Mike Nichols. Mike Hodges. Mike Hodges film, right? Hodges had come from Hodges directed, if I'm not mistaken, Get Carter. A very, very talented director, and was given Flash Gordon to direct, and to be honest, made a complete botch of it. But what you get with Flash Gordon is you get 100. It's like a wrestling match. It's like watching 1980s grandstand wrestling. It's so fun. I love Flash Gordon the film, but it's a terrible film. But that scene in particular. Peter Duncan puts his hand into that thing, and that was always scary as hell. That was as a kid. It used to scare me. That did. Good on Mike Hodges for making it. I mean, as I said, it's a bit poor, but it's never boring, and it's so fun, and it's got a wicked soundtrack, and even the guy playing Flash Gordon, he's a terrible actor, but there's just something endearing about that whole thing, and obviously you have. God, who plays Ming the Merciless? What's his name? Huge, the Bergman's actor. I mean, you've got him in it. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's given it his all, but it's such a bad film. It's a pantomime film, but it's brilliant. Public Information Films. Apaches was horrific. Yes, it was. It was the one that we were trying to work out the other week. Is that the one with death? The figure of death in it. Peter Wingard is in that, but he's one of the ones with Gordon's alive. What's he called? Brian Blessed. Peter Wingard is one of Brian Blessed's lot, isn't he? No, it's the guy who plays Ming the Merciless. What's his name? Oh, I was thinking of Eric von Stromberg, which is completely not the name. Who's in the Seventh Seal? Who's in the Seventh Seal? Who's the actor in the Seventh Seal? Bergman's film. No, not Jason King. You're naming everyone but this guy now. Flash Gordon seemed like a film made by a committee. It was. It did. It's such a bizarre movie. It stands. It's one of my favourite bad movies ever. Yeah. Peter Duncan replacing Paul Nicholas in on bass in David Essex band Stardust. Huh. You know what? David Essex. My mum used to listen to David Essex. I was just trying to think. That was the Stardust. I remember her having an album as well, and I remember David Essex. He was also in a canal boat thing. It was all about accidents children could have on farms. That was it. Yeah, that was the public. Yes, that was. Yeah, it was like a quarry. Was it as well? Maybe something else. Yes, poor old Peter Wingard. Behind a mask. He was, Robert, he was. So Max von Sydow. That's his name. The Max von Sydow. Yeah, Sydow. I just saw a lucid moment. As soon as I saw the surname, I was like, yeah. Fresh horses. something like Peter Classic, Peter. Max von Sydow, Robert. Yes, Max von Sydow. What a this great actor of thespian actor of stage, screen, and and then there he is suddenly, playing Ming the Merciless. Oh my God. But there's a great piece of music composed by Queen in that called "The Football Fight." It's on the B-side of Flash, the 7-inch single that I bought when I was very young. And on the B-side was just basically the whole piece of music that Brian May composed for when he's playing, where he basically takes their space game, alien space game, and turns it into an American football game. Or football game, if you're American. And I remember that whole piece of music. It's a great piece of music. It's and you've got loads of like audio from the film with like "Go Flash, go, go Flash, go." Anyway, I digressed. Good soundtrack, and as I said, complete load of pants, but a flaming enjoyable film. Topol's in it, yes. I remember that as well, Alan. Yeah, there's some great names that turn up in Flash Gordon. There really is. There's a huge array of like people with like little B parts, little parts and stuff. But who plays Dr. Zarkov? That actor, he's like well known as well. Fun fact: Bobby Ball got his catchphrase "Rock on, Tommy" from David Essex. Rock on. You can all sleep sound with that info now. Good fun fact, mate. Good fun fact. Bobby Ball. He doesn't get mentioned enough in these streams. Bobby Ball. Cannon and Ball don't get mentioned enough. I mean, they were drawing in 20 million viewers on their Little and Large Christmas shows. Oh, that's Little and Large. Sorry, not Cannon and Ball. I don't think Cannon and Ball. Cannon was it. So Bobby Ball and Tommy Ball. Tommy Ball and so Cannon and Ball, which I did see in 1983 when I was very young at Blackpool Pier, North Pier, with a warm-up guy who was new on the scene, Michael Barrymore. And we loved Michael Barrymore in my family. But yes, Bobby Ball, Cannon and Ball, terrible, terrible movie. Was it Bobby's in Blue? Bobby's in Blue. Was it Bobby's in Blue? This is terrible, terrible. It's sort of like that. It's sort of like it would be up there with "Are You Being Served?" the movie when they go to the Costa Blanca. It would be up there with probably the worst example of how low the British film industry became in the 70s with the Cannon and Ball film. And no disrespect to Cannon or Ball, who had a success on television. Probably one of the last duos to really have a success on television, because I think the BBC got rid of them and the likes of like Little and Large. Terrible what they did to him. That Variety Peer act that became unpopular at the BBC, and they just ditched everyone, just left them to sink. And I think Cannon and Ball were one of them. I think Little and Large managed to sort of carry on a bit longer, but the two Ronnie's Christmas shows had to be putting a big audience. I'll look that up, Capital. I'll have a look at that. I can find all that stuff out. But yeah, they would have been. Val Doonican was pulling in huge Christmas shows back in the early 70s. I mean, they were watched by like 15, 20 million people. It's insane when you think about it. It really is. It's just insane. The amount of people that tuned in. Suzanne Danieli. Suzanne Danieli. What Danieli? I don't know who that is, Alan. Oh my God! When did that go off? Let's hope it didn't go. Let's hope it. Oh no! Oh, what's the? Why is it? Is the focusing not going on me now? Oh my God! We got back. I think it's too dark in here. Let's try and do that without my nose shining red. Oh, there we go. I don't know who Suzanne Danieli is, Alan. Maybe I should do a quick search. Let's just see what I'm missing here. Suzanne Danielli. Trained as a dancer. Is this the one, Alan? Trained as a dancer at the Bush Davis School of Theatre Arts, Romford, Essex. Screen. Wild Geese. Professionals. Oh, it was her. But her first credited part in the same year as 1978 was Carry On. You beat me to it, Alan. Boys in Blue. Carry On, Emmanuel. Carry On, Emmanuel. Wow. Okay. Oh, she's also in Tales of the Unexpected. Destiny of the Daleks, which I think was John Pertwee. Tom Baker. Tom Baker. Got that one wrong, didn't I? God, I'm not up on my Doctor Who, I'll tell you that. I'm not up on my Doctor Who. She was once married to Patrick Mower. Wow. Okay, Mark. I'm learning a lot about her. She's very attractive. The Ghost of Motley Hall, that had some great actors in it for a children's show. Ghost of Motley Hall. Shit, I should know that one, Lucid Moment. I should know that one. When I was doing the Haunted TV, that didn't feature. Oh, I wish you were there for that stream. When I was doing about Haunted Children's TV. Why didn't that one come up? Ghost of... It's probably because I'm going through my memory and then what I have learned and what I've, learned since it came out. Ghost of Motley Hall. Arthur English? What a legend. I could have put this one in. Oh, no, I couldn't have. It would have been very hard because it was a network DVD. So I've tried to stay away from putting clips of things from network. Oh, my God, it looks brilliant. Freddie Jones. Oh, the great Freddie Jones, isn't it? Oh, my battery's gone. Motley Hall was built in... I'm going to have to check that one out. I will have to check that out. Good old Arthur English. Yes, good old Arthur English. A staple character actor who turned up in... Well, he always turned up in most things, didn't he? He was like... He's just that familiar face. He was almost like a Kenneth Williams kind of, Well, I'm going to call it in the next 10 minutes anyway. My girlfriend knew Suzanne years ago. She used to go round her mum's for tea. Open the cage. Tell you what, guys, just give me 1 minute. 1 minute, I'll be back. There we go. I had to get a battery for my vape. I can't... Oh, my bloody iPad's gone off now. Can't see the chat. And I don't like looking at the computer. There we are. Oh, we skipped a few. Everyone's having a nice little conversation. Midnight Cowboy theme. Everybody's talking at me. Suzanne, now married to golfer Sam Torrance. Lucky sod, says Old School Fool. The first comment I read then was Alan's right at the bottom, which just says, "I love tarts." LOL. Yes. Oh, brilliant. Love the Tales of the Unexpected when he shoots her with a magnum. I've got all of those on my hard drive. I am going to watch. I do enjoy Tales of the Unexpected. I think the first or second series of Tales of the Unexpected is Jesus Christ. A lot of vape coming on there. Where they have on location filming, because some of them look very much like a set. Obviously, it was, you know, practicality is cheaper to shoot on in a set, easier to shoot in a set. But when they were on location, you get to see a little bit of, like, you know, a village or a town somewhere outside of London or London itself. And I've said many times before, part of the interest in it may not be a very good story, it may not be very well acted, it may not have anyone that famous in it, but they're wandering about, I don't know, Soho in 1978. That interests me. That does interest me. Seeing kind of like, you know, the way that the city used to be and what it used to look like. So I tend to like a lot of things that were shot on location. I added it to my Fire Stick, mate. I haven't stuck it on yet. I have added it though. I promise you. I will. I tell you what. I mean, I've got a week of. I've come up with this idea for this stream in Christmas, and I sort of debated on whether I join this membership, which is going to cost a bit of money, and then I thought, sod it, I enjoy doing this, and plus there's loads of stuff I can get from it. So I've been sort of like spent a day doing that. That was probably my day where I watch a lot of films. I have seen a recent film. It's called No One Will Save You. No one will help you. No one will save you. No. Anyway, it was. I really enjoyed it. It was a modern film as well. It was a science fiction film about a young girl who was absolutely phenomenal in the role. In fact, I think it probably would interest some of you here. It's got a very 70s feel to it. It's a very 70s film. Yes, there's a lot of CGI in it, but it's handled really well. But I was quite impressed with it, and I'm terrible. I haven't done it justice because I've forgot the name. It's like No One's Going to Save You or something. And the other thing I watched was the end of the Long Shadow, which was on ITV. Black Sails. I will definitely. I put it into my bookmark list. I have to be honest with you, Old School Fool. That bookmark list has got about 50 different things in it. But because you've mentioned it twice now, I feel like we could at least carry on the conversation. And a lot of the stuff I've got bookmarked, it's just for me. It's not for anything else. So I will promise to try and get to watch that this coming week. And I think if this stream has proved to be successful in terms of connection, the reset on my router for the Starlink and the OBS settings, it's still fluctuating a bit. I'm still at like drop frames, but I'm hoping that we'll get some gaming in as well. I really do want to finish Alan Wake, but that would be Wednesday anyway. I have thought about something that I'm considering doing in future Wednesday shows. And my other love, I don't really want to say it here in case I'm not saying that any of you will steal the idea, because that's bollocks. It's just putting it out there with the 400, 500 views this video gets. And it's connected to my lifestyle of living on a narrowboat, but it's also connected to the paranormal. So I'm considering having a regular Wednesday stream. that incorporates this idea that I've got, but we'll see how it goes. I don't really want to stream games. I'm not really into game streaming, but I will finish Alan Wake because I love that game and I want to play Alan Wake 2. Wednesdays was an absolute nightmare. In the end, I couldn't do it. It was Silent Scream. Yes. Silent Scream was what I did on Wednesday, old school for, when Alan Wake wouldn't stream. Silent Stream. I'm going to smoke this cigarette, and then I'm going to bugger off, because it's 11 o'clock, and I've been on for 2 hours. If you class that first half an hour, which I don't, that's 2.5 hours. We've gone on to the... Well, the Wednesday stream might well be related every week to paranormal, and will require me to get my ass out of this boat as opposed to just sitting here editing stuff for other people. Get my ass out of this boat and do a bit of filming, to be honest. I'll probably do at least 4 locations in 1 or 2 days, and then I will create something from it. The Haunted Cut. Didn't realise you were on a narrowboat. Capital, I am on a narrowboat. The illusion that I have behind me, it's just an illusion. That's a vintage French screen door behind me, and behind that you would see then it's like there's the hatch and there's your exit. It's interesting that you say that, but yes, you're not too far. You're not too far removed by what you've just said then. So. But I'd like to do something regular, and my passion in cinema and stories and books is horror. It always has been horror. I do like horror. Look at you all naming horror films. The House That Bled to Death. I did watch another film this week. I've watched 2 this week. I watched the new one, which, as I've said, is brand new, 2023, I think. Brilliant actress. I've watched that one, but I also watched The House with the Yellow Carpet from 1983. It's on YouTube. It's dubbed. It's Italian. It's a giallo. Mango Fandango. If you're in here, it's a giallo film. A very not a wouldn't consider a classic giallo, but it bends the genre of giallo really well. It's called The House with the Yellow Carpet. Okay, the cigarette's gone out now. Old school form. We're coming up to October, and there's me talking about a special Christmas Day stream. Well, maybe not Christmas Day, but it'll be around Christmas. Although I am by myself for Christmas. It's my first year without my mum. So, but you don't have to feel sympathy. It's no brothers and sisters, no girlfriend. No boyfriend, if I was that way inclined. No cat, no dog. Just me on Christmas Day. So I might do a Christmas Day stream just to cheer me up a bit. I might even dress up as a Christmas tree. Would people like to see me dress up as a Christmas tree? But it's yes, October is coming. It's Frightmare time on October. So the stream next week will be Halloween themed. Obviously, it's not Halloween, but it would be the 28th, I think. But there is a special stream going out for that one as well. I haven't started it yet, but I've got a whole week to put together something. We talked briefly a little bit on the Wednesday stream about what horror they like. But I'm going to be putting together a collection of probably horror films you might not be aware of. Some pretty C-class British horror movies. I'm putting together a little sort of teaser, a bit like the intro to this. We'll have that, but we are going to talk about 70s, Alan, and everyone who loves the 70s. We are specifically looking at the 70s. However, there will be something in there. It's basically my favorite horror when I was a kid. And not so much now, but I still have a passion for it, is The Werewolf. And it will culminate in my favourite werewolf film and a little talk about John Landis's 1981 American Werewolf in London. I know that's not the 70s, but it's the 70s is what started my obsession with werewolves, and then John Landis bookended it with the greatest werewolf film ever made, and I will stand by that. I will stand by that. American Werewolf in London is not just the greatest werewolf film ever made, but it's definitely the greatest popular culture horror film ever made. But yeah, that's next week. So please join me. Spread the word. Spread the word. It's lovely that there's so many new names in here. And I'm looking at Mark from Norway, a Brit living in Norway. And I'm looking at Capital 194. Robert Graves, I know you've been in a few times. There have been some people that have joined tonight that I've been really enjoyed your input. And as I say, these streams really... Video Diva. I love the little ghosty thing there. These streams really do rely on people's input, and I love how you talk amongst yourself as well, and I love what you bring up, because it puts, I learn things, and there's lots of things today that I've learned that I haven't heard of, mainly like one of the camp wrestler that I'm going to look up, because everyone loves the idea of a camp wrestler. Well, there's that guy, the guy that you said that he's supposed to be like a samurai, but he's from Wolverhampton. I mean, that's fascinating to me. I didn't know that. Do you remember a film called The Shout? Capital 194? I do. I do remember a film called... It was Richardson, wasn't it? Richardson in that. Oh, no. No, it wasn't. It was John Hurt. John Hurt, yes. I think John Hurt's in that. I've probably got it wrong. Is it not Ralph Richardson? Who was in that? It's going to bug me, but I've seen it. Yes, it was based on somebody who... It was weird. It was the good thing about The Shout that I remember is how they used sound as horror. It was a very weird film, but I remember how they used experimental soundscapes in that film. I've got this image of him walking along a beach, screaming. And kind of like the sound in that film, it was amazing. But yes, I do. I haven't seen it for probably 15 years, but I do know it. Not a film, but Ghostwatch with Sarah Green scared me as a kid. Everyone at school the next day talking about Pipes, the ghost. Video Diva, yes, the Sarah Green was everywhere. But Ghostwatch, yeah, that was a BBC sort of mockumentary. It did. Michael Parkinson, if I remember, was hosting that. I mean, considering what we know now, to rewatch that or to see it new with fresh eyes, you would know it was sort of fake. But to put it into perspective of when they made it and what they were trying to do, it was extremely effective. And I know the BBC have often mentioned it, that it did cause loads of people to write in. Like loads of people. It really got to people. And I watched it at the time, and I remember feeling that too at the time. I've seen it probably 10 years ago and thought, yeah, what we know now, it sort of ruins it. We've sort of taken... It's a bit like when your parent turns around and says, oh, by the way, there's no Santa. It's a bit like that. It's like we've been spoiled, and there's too many people out there ready to poo-poo something. So it's not as effective today, put it that way. But it at the time, brilliant. Do you have 70s coffee table horror film books? Alan Franks or Dennis Gifford? No, I don't. But I do have a coffee table book. In fact, I have it here. I was talking about it the other day, and I'm reading bits of it again. It's not a coffee table book, though, but it is horror. It's Robert Aikman. Robert Aikman. Oh, God. There we go. Robert Aikman. Dark Entries. I was mentioning that there's a famous Ringing the Changes is on YouTube. Mark Gatiss reads it, but that's the first thing I ever learned about Robert Aikman. And I guess you could say this would be... I brought this up on Wednesday. That would be a coffee table. Oh, there we go. That's the Usborne's... Don't go off, bastard. Not you. That's the collection of... oh, there's a werewolf. There's a werewolf. There's the werewolf. There's the werewolf. There we go. There's the werewolf. And the reptile. And the reptile. Classic. It's not really a coffee table book, but... From my childhood. It's many, many years of me looking at horror books. Tim Curry and John Hurt. Yes, that is. Thank you, Video Diva. The shout. It was Alan Bates. Yes, I knew it was. Oh, Lucid's gone. Lucid, you're a legend, mate. Thanks for dropping in. I love meeting you. I really appreciate that, and you've added so much to it as well. Like everyone, as I say, everyone is a part of this stream. Can really help where it goes. So I appreciate that. Thank you for dropping by. Really enjoyed the stream. Night, Lucid. Cheers, Lucid. Amicus Anthologies, great favourite, says Robert. Kendo Nagasaki is the guy from Wolverhampton. Thanks, Old School Fool. I'm definitely going to be looking that out. And it was Alan Bates. It was Alan Bates. He was the main guy. He basically has something happens when he screams, and everyone kind of like starts bleeding from the ears and stuff. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre, hallucinatory, audible nightmare. Is what that film is. But yeah, so is that somebody's favourite? Is that somebody's? Oh, here we go. Cushintastic. Episode 23. Another one of Old School Fools. If anyone's here wants to watch a brilliant spoof, parody, satire, whatever you want to call it, on various topics, check out Old School Fools Stepisodes series on YouTube. They are absolutely bloody fantastic. They really are. If I hadn't have had so much faffing around this week with trying to work out why I couldn't stream on Wednesday and then all the stuff, I'd be watching a lot more of those, and I do intend on binge watching those, and I don't binge watch anything, so along with Black Sails as well. So I will, promise. Station 67, boom. How are you, mate? Doesn't matter whether you're late. I am just getting off in the next few minutes, but yeah, I always appreciate you dropping in. Sorry I'm late. Was watching England v Springboks game. If I was sports inclined, we just had at least 10-minute talk on Grandstand, Station 67. We've been talking about Grandstand, and we've been talking about wrestling. I've been talking about a wrestler called I've got to go back. I've got to get him. I've got to catch this chat. Kendo Nagasaki. Apparently, he would dress up like a samurai, and he was looked like a Japanese wrestler. But he was from Wolverhampton. He was a white guy from Wolverhampton. I love the fact that it's like Kendo, which is clearly honing in on the Japanese theme there, and Nagasaki is a city in Japan. He really didn't like what. This will make me sound really Japanese. I'm all good. There was a little bit of a problem at the start of the stream, but we've sorted it now. I think we've sorted it. So I think you were. I think you may have even been on Wednesday when it was all. Oh, we didn't talk about Frank Boff. The face of the BBC for most of the for most of the 80s for me that I remember, yeah. And he went on to do Breakfast Time, if I remember. I don't know about that. Was watching the England v Springboks game. Who's Springboks box? Terrible. I was never. Look at me. I mean, look at me. Do I look like a sportsman? I got into rugby a little bit, but I just like rugby shirts now. It doesn't make me a rugby player, although I did play rugby and I damaged my knee when I was 15 because I was 6'5" at 15. It was the only sport I could play, really. I did do tennis for a while, and I was. Do you know what? This is a really sad fact. Right at the end of this, I am going to say that I was LTA rated. Do you want to know my rating? I competed in 3 tournaments: Dartmouth Regatta in 1990 and 1989. I was ranked, and I had a coach for a brief time in Dartmouth. There was a coach who said I had a lot of prospect in the serve department. I used to bang down first serves at about 80 miles an hour when I was 14, and they were in. They all went in. I was shit at the volleying. I was crap at everything else, but I did enjoy Tennis. I did enjoy tennis, but I was ranked. You know, I wish I had the exact figure. I think by memory, and I've told this story to a few friends as well who I think have looked it up as well, and they've seen my ranking in that at that particular time, and it was something like 3,780 something. So there you go. I gave up tennis at 17, by the way. But I used to watch a bit of tennis. I used to be a big Tim Henman fan. Yes, somebody had to be a big Tim Henman fan. I didn't like the Murray guy that took over, Andy Murray. I didn't like Andy Murray. I was always a Tim Henman fan. I had a good serve. But unlike Tim Henman, I was shit at volleying. And the only reason why Tim Henman didn't win a tournament at Wimbledon was because every time he would get to a semi-final or a final, it was Roger bloody Federer. And who the hell could beat Roger Federer at the time, you know? Roger Federer or Pete Sampras. I mean, people always say, God, he's never won, he never got anywhere. But it's like, he's playing like Pete Sampras. I mean, you know, he's playing Roger Federer later in his career. I mean, the guy went on to, was he still playing now, Roger Federer? Was he like 90? Anyway, I've got digressed. But yes, I don't know what the Springboks game is, Station 67. Frank, is that Frank Boff then, Alan, with Wendy James? Oh, I'd like to see that, especially if it was Wendy James back in the day of, you know, when she was Landslide of Love, You Kill Me. Terrible singer live. Awful. Fit as hell, though. I had a poster of her on my wall. Next to Jan Francis, funny enough. My ball control has always been atrocious. So Station 67. Oh, well, you know, you can excel in other things, mate. You don't, you know. My wife reminded me of Mick McManus, who was another wrestler. Oh, Mick McManus. I wonder what was his wrestling name? McManus. That rings a bell. Couldn't ping my pong for love nor money, says Station 67. No. No. She looks like Mick McManus Capital. Old school fool. Proud to say I attended a Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks battle. Oh, what they came up. They came up. Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. You'll have to rewatch the stream, mate. So did I, Station at a town. Oh, and another video. I'm sorry if I didn't read that one. So, but were you at the same place? Were you watching the same wrestling match as Station 67 Video Diva? Did you see, who is it who said that some of the old women used to hit when they flew out of the ring, they'd hit them with their handbags? Did you witness any of that, either of you two? Frank Cheeky Graham Boff. Yes, he was. I mean, I know that it ended his career, didn't it? Completely ended it. And when he died, the BBC didn't pay any tribute to him. I mean, it was literally like, oh, it's that guy that did a couple of lines of coke. Apparently he was a bit of an asshole anyway, but who knows? I think anyone who does coke is probably a bit of an asshole, because that's what that drug does. It turns you into an asshole. My ex-wife reminded me of Mick McManus. Mick McManus. I'm going to have to look him up as well. But I'm definitely going to be looking up that Japanese guy. Thanks, Station 67. I appreciate your support, mate. I really do. And it's just nice to just drop in, even if it was sort of at the end. Oh, my God, I've been talking for... Oh, I didn't start at 8, Station 67. I sort of did, but I had to end the stream because of an issue, and we've sorted that now. So I've been on since 9 o'clock. That's 2 hours and 15 minutes. So, you know what time it is. I am going to say it's time for the end. The end is nigh, as they say. Station 67 at video. Mine was the windmill at Rushton Northants. Oh. God, take me back. I'd love to have gone to see one of those matches. I used to love watching it as a kid. Anyway, they're probably, I say with Mango, I think she really wanted me to play Alan Wake, but it's looking like that's sorted. So I might just jump on and just blast through that on Wednesday. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but do keep an eye on the Wednesday stream because it's likely to change in the very not so far near future. Thank you, Capital 194. I really appreciate your support and thank you for dropping in, mate. You've added so much to this stream. Like as I say, everyone who drops in and just comments, and it can trigger my brain to go off in a different direction, and I can learn stuff like from everyone, and that's why I enjoy interacting with so many people here. Anyone remember Les Keller, says Robert Graves. Good night all, says Mark Anderson. Good night, Mark. Again, thank you, mate, for coming in, and it's great to see some new names and stuff, and I really appreciate that. As I said, it really aids and adds to the stream. Les Keller. Is he a wrestler, Robert? Anyway, I am going to play the outro, and I will hopefully see all of you lovely people next Saturday for a non-interrupted stream, which is rare considering the last 14 days of things which have seemed to have sorted themselves out with my rebooting the entire system. So Alan Wake, Jamie and his magic torch 10 years down the line. Great game though. Yes, Station 67. It is a sort of if Stephen King made Jamie and the magic torch, it would be like that. It would be like that. Just a torch and a few bullets and a pistol and a shotgun, and that's what you get. All right, guys, you've all been bloody lovely. Thanks for bearing with me at the beginning. We've hopefully sorted that out for the next stream. So I am going to, what have I named this today? I've named it a different, so it's the end stream. I will catch you all next Saturday, maybe a few on Wednesday if you're about. Cheers, Station 67. Thanks for everyone, and have a great Sunday. Whatever you're up to, if you're going to go to the garden centre and you're going to go looking at like plants, then make it a great day. Make it a great day, and have a little coffee in the garden centre coffee and tea shops. Maybe treat yourself to a nice preserve, a nice locally made, organically made farmer's preserve. I can't even be wanky. I'm trying to be wanky, and I can't be wanky. All right, guys, here's the end stream. Or a nice chutney.
Turn it off, Neil.
No, this is really good, this, Mike.